Wally, after the introduction, we're now getting to the point of doing your interview.
Okay.
And maybe if you could start and just tell us very briefly where you were born, when you were born, and your schooling, and did you join the militia before you joined the AIF?
Yeah, I was forced to, because I knocked me back. No, well, you start off in Bassendean. I was born in Bassendean at 84 West Road. I was the fourth of 5 children, and at 4-year-old we shifted to Katanning, and I did all my education at Katanning State School, and I left there with Dad had been working with the Shell Depot Superintendent Katanning for quite a few years, and always had an idea of going on the farm, which we did in 1937 and 1934. But that did not work out financially and cost Daddy's all his money virtually, and then we shifted to Perth, back to our own home at Bassendean again, and I worked for a time at Mallock Brothers, as Dad had worked with them on numerous occasions beforehand, and I worked, of all things, on a barbed wire machine, making barbed wire for 6 months. Then I had a job with them overhauling shearing handpieces and milking machines, and I realised after a short time that I was overhauling shearing handpieces, which was a top job in the country, and I was getting 30 bob a week, whereas a handpiece specialist for the shearing team was one of the top paid men in the country. I tried to get an increase in pay, but then the railways are called for cleaners to start as a cleaner, go to firemen and drivers, and as I had an uncle in the job at present and I had good references, I was one picked to start, and I started in Mullawar as a cleaner in March 1939. Shortly in June 40, I was down home for the weekend at Bassendean, and with my brother went to join the AIF. He had been in the militia for some years and was grabbed with open arms, but as soon as I mentioned the railways, I was manpowered, and that kept out. The next thing, I was called up to do militia, and I went in with B Company 11th Battalion Militia, who took a Geraldton crowd. They took the Mullawar people in with them, and I was very, very thankful later that 3 months initial training. By continuing training around the place to get into the RAF room, and finally the shed foreman in Mullawar, Jim Baker, had been sergeant in 11th Battalion, said to me, "Fill in your papers, give them to me." 10 days later I got a call up, went straight to the RAF and went in as reinforcement to the 28th to catch up with a brother. One of our chaps going on leave said they were chasing reinforcements of the 2nd 4th, who were in Darwin. So the line is up and counted to call for reinforcements, a lot of movement. So just count us off, 144, 138, I think it was.
Yes.
As we would stipulate 2nd 4th. And then only a very short time to do nothing about machine guns, but I had always along the line been good in the bush shooting and so forth, and when we joined the 2nd 4th hour on the Aquitania in Gage Roads out of Fremantle, we went on one side and they were leaving, a lot of them were leaving. They were told the boat crew were getting leave, but the 2nd 4th, the POWs, the 2nd 4th were not getting any holidays, any leave. So as turned out, a lot of them decided to take leave, and they went down the ropes onto the water lighters with putting water in the Aquitania, and after it was about half empty, they found out the number of troops on top of the deck, the water lighter, was too heavy. They had to take them ashore, otherwise the boat was going to be top heavy. 2 of the boys, friends of Wynn's, joined. We're going past Bassendean, past her home, and she told them that I was joining the 2nd 4th. They said that they would catch up, and they brought me a letter later. But anyway, that was the thing. We left Singapore, left Fremantle on the 15th of January, went up 9 days to Singapore, transhipped in the Sandwich Straits to Dutch coastal traders, went into Singapore, and it turned out the day we lobbed into there was the one day there was no raids on Japanese raids on Singapore. we were stationed just by the causeway to Johor for a time, and then they decided to form up a reinforcement Special Reserve Battalion under Major Saggers, a company commander from the 2nd 4th, and E Company 2nd 4th, and 2 companies of Australian Army Service Corps. There were others to come in, but they never got together. On the Tuesday, we went out into the rubber, and that was the start of it all. After a short time, I was in a section of 8. There was 9. They took the sergeant out, the corporal made him a sergeant, and the 2 of us had done militia training, Arthur McGill from Collie and myself. One was to take the Vickers machine, the Bren gun, and one was to take 2 stripes. As I had topped the range on the Bren gun, I was given the Bren and Arthur was given the stripes. And on the Tuesday we were told, or Jimmy Till, our platoon commander, was told to send a platoon, a section out in front of the company up to 2 mile and see what they could find.
Now, where were you positioned at this stage? You had been in the Woodlands camp, hadn't you?
No, yes, no, we were out in the rubber.
You were out in the rubber.
Yeah.
Yes, on the sort of west side of the causeway, do you think, or have you got a feeling about where you were?
Yes, out on the west side.
Yes.
The west side of the island.
Yes.
That part there.
Yes.
And we went out as a patrol, and along the way, one of the boys had spotted a group of appeared to be Asians walking down the road. Then someone spotted they were armed, so we went down round what was a big food dump. These were scattered all over the island where they placed big supplies of food dump in case of emergencies, and these people went into a Malay cottage house, and as I had the Bren, I gave a burst of fire across the front of the gun, the front of the cottage, and 2 of them ran out, hide behind a bush, and I had to move out the openers on the right hand side of the food dump in the open to get a bead on them. So I gave them a bit of a burst, and it always makes me think of it. Shooting a man is just the same as shooting a rabbit. If you hit him in a vital spot, they wave arms and legs kicking about and so forth. But then Arthur said, righto, up and back out the way we came over that ridge, and we took off, and the 8 of us, but we finished up with 3 shy. Sid Darby, Ernie Thompson, Ernie Bunday didn't come back from that show. That was our first casualties.
Now, could I ask you 2 questions? You said you were with this ex-battalion, was it, or ex-company?
No, they called us
the Special Reserve.
Special Reserve Battalion.
Yeah.
Special Reserve Battalion under Major Saggers.
And that was under Major Saggers. Yeah. So within that, who was your immediate officer in charge?
Jimmy Till. Had been
yes.
Platoon Sergeant Major.
He was a
wonderful bloke.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely a wonderful bloke.
Yep. Now, so this is, so you'd arrived towards the end of January, and capitulation was on the 15th of February. Yeah. So about what date is this now?
The Japs landed on the Sunday night.
On the 8th of February.
We capitulated on the 15th, a week later.
Yes.
This was on the Tuesday of the week. We lost our 3 blokes.
Yeah.
That night we camped in the rubber, and Major Saggers made contact with outside people, and he was told to withdraw from where he was. But as he said, at that time of night the boys had a pretty heavy day. Rather than shift, he'd move at daylight, and it turned out through the night the Japs started firing occasionally out what they knew as our positions, and I'd give them a bit of a burst with a Bren at the direction of their fire. But we moved at daylight, and that was the bad point. They had us, knew exactly where we were, and they used 2-inch mortars on our people. And that was, they were quite deadly with these things. They moved alongside us virtually as we were going along, and caused a hell of a lot of casualties amongst our people. The youngest bloke there was his initial for HHT Norton. He was about 16, and he got hit, and one of the old chaps went back and checked him, couldn't do anything for him and left him, but we went through. And a bit later on, Major Saggers led quite a lot of them and made a left-hand turn and took them out away from where we were with the Japs, and the mob was under Jimmy Till, carried on up the valley, and there was quite a lot of action going on. But then we could hear a machine gun, and I couldn't see it, but Jimmy Till spotted, "Give us that Bren." And he emptied my magazine straight into it and stopped the machine gun. Then finish up there, because he's got the Bren in his hand, no magazines. It wasn't time to be sitting down to starting loading magazines for the Bren, so I grabbed a rifle and just wheeled on. That was the last I saw of Jimmy Till. He was carrying my empty Bren.
Yes.
I was with about half a dozen blokes. We went up, inspected this machine gun. I've stated it to different people. No one seemed to know about it. It appeared to be gravity fed. A big V on top, the bullets all facing one way, and it just gravity fed into it. But they said that they didn't know of a Japs having one, but that I inspected it quite well. Then we moved on up to a rise. There was low scrub, and looking up we saw a range of Japs coming over the ridge, about 15-20 metres apart, all coming down over the hill. And if we showed up, they were gone, we knew, so we lay down in the scrub and kept still. And they went straight over us. A bit later on you could hear bullets as they were shooting at wounded and so forth. But there was a chap from Esperance, his name's in my little book, Blue Evans, and 2 blokes from the ASC. And we moved on that night. And ahead of a daytime and moved night. But Friday morning decided we had to get out of it, so we struck a bitumen road facing south. We walked down this, spread out along the sides of the road, and come round the corner and see a Vickers machine gun pointing towards us. So we just kept on walking into it, and turned out they were Malay volunteers manning the Vickers, and they had a truck and said straight away they'd take us back into town. The first group I saw, the 2nd, 4th colour patches, I said, "This is doing me eye off." And it turned out to be 9 Platoon B Company. Frank Hines and Doug Sterrett were there, and so we stopped with them. This was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon I got there, and their loot, Don Lee, Lieutenant Don Lee came along, full of instructions, showed me a shovel, a trenching tool, dig your crowns in front of you, here's your forward and everything else. So I put the shovel down on the ground, put my head on and went to sleep.
So that was to be a weapon pit, was it?
Yeah.
Was that, yeah. But you went to sleep.
Supposed to
you were exhausted.
I put my head on the shovel at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 10 o'clock the next morning, Frank Hines woke me up with a cup of tea.
Yeah.
He said, "There's something wrong with you?" I said, "No, I just wanted a bit of a sleep."
Yeah.
And that's it. I stopped there,
Yeah.
right through. We never moved from there.
Now, about what date is this now?
This was a Friday. Friday afternoon.
Yeah, is it a day or two before capitulation, or when is it? Yes.
No, it's Friday, and we finished up on the Sunday night. We stopped there.
So it's 2 days before capitulation.
2 days before. And I stopped there, we never saw any action at all.
Yeah.
Planes going overhead, but never worried us. But
now, I have a question for you. Did you know that Colonel Anketel had been hit?
No, we knew nothing of it.
No. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. So, can you move forward to when did you first know that you were under instructions to surrender?
It came through on about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night.
Yes.
On the Sunday night, that they had surrendered, and there was to be no more action.
Yes.
So there's nothing much we could do. We were told to pile our arms, which they did, but pretty roughly, and there was no movement until the next morning, daylight.
Yeah.
At daylight we were there, and a group of Japs came through, but they were all big blokes, be a minimum of about 5'9", and a lot of them over 6 foot. Big lot of them had glasses on, but they were well turned out, really looked the part. And the first thing they did was they'd heard about us doing army drill, shouldering arms. Had them bushed the way we could start with a rifle on one side, on our left and our right side, and put it up on our left shoulder.
Yes, yeah.
So they had got groups of blokes doing rifle drill.
Yes.
Just for their amusement.
This was with the 303, was it?
The 303. And then it turned out a two-up game started, and Slew Baxter, who I had known in Mullawall, his mother was in a nursing home or in a boarding house in Mullawall, very sick, but he was well known all through the northern goldfields. He was not very big, but he was willing to fight any bug around the place. And it turned out Sue was there, and in the two-up school he finished up with Malay dollars, which at the time we were paid, I think $7 was £2.05, 2.11 a dollar was the time. He had bundled his money in his pockets all over the place, and he went around distributing the money the whole lot to keep the game going. But no, that was it. Then of course after it gradually formed up into groups and so forth, and we were marched.
Yeah. Now that you're coming now to when you were marched out to Selarang, or out to the Changi area in particular, Selarang Barracks.
Yeah.
How long did it take to march out there?
Hard to work out now. We've left in the morning.
Were the Chinese, the local people, watching you?
Oh yes, they were there. But I mean,
did any of them assist you? Did any of them bring water out to you?
Not much. No, I don't think. No, they kept pretty well out of the way. Yes. But later on, they had wonderful assistance. They got, but no, in the march out there, I never saw any assistance much. Yes. And that's it. We went out to Selarang Barracks. That's where we started. Sorted ourselves out. So
what was your accommodation like out in Selarang Barracks? I know there were some multi-storey buildings.
Yes, 3-storey buildings, and we were packed in like sardines, but I mean it was quite reasonable to what we had later on.
Did you sleep on the floor or?
Oh yeah, on the concrete.
You didn't have a stretcher at that stage?
Later on I did. One of the things, anywhere you go, soon woke up the fact, get out and scrounge, see what you find. And I came by a stretcher.
Yes.
So was the thing you had to always, all your gear of a daytime had to be packed up in a nice heap together, wonderful, put on the end of my stretcher and so forth. And one day different chaps reported things missing, and there was a bit of a look around the place, and finally someone said to inspect so-and-so's gear. Missing stuff was found in his gear. So he was taken outside and 2 lines of blokes lined up, and he had to run down the middle, and he got so far down, and a chap, I can't think of his name and number and address and everything else is in my book, but he hauled off and lifted this bloke under the chin and lobbed him on the back of his head, and to take him to hospital went my stretcher.
Oh, so you lost your bed.
I lost my stretcher, and that was it. And strange, we went on and so forth, and then I was having trouble with my eyesight through food. Of course, when we first went out to Selarang, we were eating rice and very little else. And I mean, you could eat a feed of boiled rice, and you go to the latrine, urinal, and that was about it, the end of the rice. And one of the boys went up to old Pills, Dr. Anderson, and said to him, I haven't been to the toilet for 4 days. And Pills looked at him and said, if you got the same trouble in a fortnight, come back and see me. It just, you didn't go to the toilet, there was nothing going through you.
Yes.
But no, it was quite strange. We had the sergeant, orderly sergeant, the battalion orderly sergeant, Solomon Viney. He was there one day, and he's on the scrounge out going around the bush, and I come across a bit of a cottage house and so forth, and Solomon Viney said, he's got this bloody lovely table. He said, I want this back in the orderly room. I was really bloody good at yourself, wasn't it? He said, no, we'll take it back. The story was, during the action, he had a tin of sardines in his hip pocket, his back pocket, and a piece of shrapnel went through the tin of sardines into his backside. Whether it did or not, I don't know, but he always walked with a very distinct limp and carried a stick. So this day at the table, he said, you got the front, I'll get the back. He put his stick on the table, and we carried about 2 miles back to camp. He was still limping, but there wasn't much wrong with him. But I heard many years later that he went to England afterwards, and he married some quite official lady who was quite well known in England, over in the Peace Salon. But he was quite a character, the things he came out with. But no, it was a matter of anywhere you moved about, first thing, see what you could scrounge, get what you could, look after yourself or your mates and so forth. But no, it worked out quite well. But as I said, I was having eye trouble. I was under Major Orr, the eye specialist.
Yes.
And
he was a Perth doctor, wasn't he? He was from Perth.
Was he?
I think he was.
I don't know where he was. But anyway, he said straight away, he took me off the list. So I was paraded to him, said straight away, all my group of mates, about 7 or 8 of us, stopped together right through the piece. We want to stop together. We look after one another. He said, right, if you want to go, so I went, put myself back onto Air Force.
Yes.
That's how I finished up on Air Force.
Okay, well just before we get to Air Force, were you in Cellarine Barracks when they brought all the people in?
Yeah.
Because to force them to sign
That's right.
the non-escape document?
Right, yeah. We were told we had to sign this form, but we would not attempt to escape, and we wouldn't. The mob just jacked up on that, wouldn't do it. So right, they shifted the whole POWs in that area into Cellarine Barracks.
About 15,000 was it?
14, 15,000 in there, and then we were packed in.
Yes.
But the hard part about Australia was the fact that the water supply was not sufficient to feed them all, to supply them with water, and the toilet problem was, so we were flat out 24 hours a day digging boreholes in the middle of the parade ground.
Oh, breaking through the asphalt,
Break through the asphalt, and dig these boreholes, and put straight down, they put them down 20-something feet.
Yes. 6
men, 3 on either side, turning a big tripod round,
yes,
and then pull it up, empty the dirt, and this kept going all the time. They built toilets over them, and it worked out quite well. But it was a bit hard, and then I took Blackjack, Lieutenant Colonel Culligan, CO of 2nd 30th Battalion. Good, really good, hard soldier. They took him and a few of them out to Changi Beach, and 2 young blokes that had attempted to escape. They lined them up, and Jap guards shot them.
Corporal Brevington, wasn't it?
Yes, the stories there of that. And he came back, and I was near the front of the group, and old Blackjack stood up and said that he had tears in his eyes. He said, "We will sign this under duress."
Yes.
We'll sign it. So I was, when we went up the line, so I signed W. Holding. Then I find out afterwards there was Ned Kelly and Adolf Hitler, the whole lot of men in the bloody, all signed their names there. There was every name you think of, film stars, a whole lot, all signed in.
Yes.
But, no, then we went back into our direction.
Now, do you remember when A Force went away? Claude Anderson went off with A Force,
he went with A Force,
and quite a few other of your 2nd, 4th men.
Quite a lot. You've got all the numbers, I suppose, of the different groups. I've got there in there all the numbers. So A Force, then B Force went to Borneo.
Yes.
And one of our boys, I said about Bassendean boys, he was taken to that. Those 2 boys, Roy Baconiki went on B Force, went to Borneo, and I've got a plane there of where he died, and date he died, and so forth. And Archie McIntosh, they went with me on Air Force, and neither of them came back.
Yes, So they'd gone. Do you remember when D Force went off to to Singapore? They left your camp. You didn't know where they were going.
No, I didn't know they left the camp, but quite often,
like Jimmy Elliott was
with work parties somewhere for 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
And you didn't know what was going on.
So Jimmy Elliott
couldn't
went off
keep track
with
of them all leaving, but come back and they say, "Oh, so and so have been taken in the last group," and so forth. The various forces went off.
Yes. Now, how is it that you became a member of F Force, which went to Thailand?
Well, they lined us up and said straight away. There was they started reading out names. There was 50 2nd, 4th to go on F Force, but as I said, I was not in it. I was paraded to Major Orr, had myself put back on the force, and I was one of the 50 who went on F Force.
Yes. And it's well known that about 7,000. There were 7,000 on Air Force, and just more than half
3,668 Australians.
Oh, I would know you would.
3,332 POWs.
Yes, and you went up by train. As I understand it, the Australians went first.
I wouldn't be too sure about that part of it, how we went up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the 4th train.
Yes, well, there we are. You're certainly up the front if you're... Because you went up over about 13 consecutive days.
Yeah, 13 days.
With about 500 men on each train.
Yes, 7,000 went up in 13 days, 13 trains.
So, on your trip up, how often were you given a meal?
Well, there's points along the track we were supposed to be given a meal. Sometimes there was, sometimes it wasn't.
Yes.
You didn't know.
Yeah.
And the funny thing at EPO, because by this time we were with sweat packed in like sardines, we could smell ourselves.
Yes.
And at EPO we stopped and the steam train pulled away from the column.
Yes.
And I knew all about water columns and so forth from the railways, so I went over and grabbed a fire iron off the engine and pulled the bloody column on, turned the column on. All the local population, dirty clothes, took our clothes as we were standing in the shower, washed our clothes, put them back on wet, and got back on the train.
And this was the hose that they used for refuelling the steam train with water, is it?
Oh yes,
a big overhead hose.
Column, yes. It swings around out over the train, fills the tender with water, and of course there's no problem if you know about. Just give it a pull on the train, it swings it out, and we had showered and washed ourselves and our clothes on the spot.
Well, it's lucky that you had that knowledge.
Oh yes, the other boys were quite happy.
How did you get on for a toilet on the way up?
If you hang out the sides, two blokes hang on to you, hang out the side if you had to.
Yeah, they'd hold under your arms and you put your bottom out and make yourself more comfortable, right?
And then of course every now and then you get a nasty guy to tell you to shut the door.
Yes.
The bloke's halfway through doing his duties and they had to shut the door.
Yes.
Wait till he went away and carried on again.
Yes, yeah.
Some of the guards were reasonable and some were bad.
Yeah.
Use a stick.
Yeah.
No.
Now, when you arrived in Ban Pong, what was your, which is in Thailand, what was your first impression?
Funny old setup. We got up there as a group and marched up and we were looking around to find out what was going on. About this time, Toyama showed up.
And who was Toyama?
Toyama was a Korean who was an interpreter, spoke reasonable English.
Yeah.
He came on.
He was one of your guards, was he?
He was there. It's hard to work out all along the line. He had more power over a lot of the Japs. It was hard to work out how he did it. He could tell a lot of the Japanese what to do. And it was very hard to work out what his position was. But he walked in with a big group of us there, and Captain Gwyn and another major were standing there, and he walked past him, and Gwynny said, "I wonder what this little bastard wants." And of course, knowing English, he always carried a stick about the same height as he was. He turned around and swung his stick and hit Gwynny on the side of the head, knocked his glasses off, and he knocked him on the floor. It's one of the few times I ever saw where it was very, very close to someone grabbing a guard, dealing with him.
Yes.
But then they all sort of stood back, and Gwynny got up and so forth. But from then on, he was a menace to all along the line, this little bloke. I got photos of him there and so forth.
Yes. So in your march up to your destination, you went to. You do remember getting to Kanchanaburi on about the second night.
Yeah.
But do you remember how you actually crossed that river, or where you crossed that river? Do you remember crossing the river?
Yeah, yes, we crossed it now. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Was it? Did you cross the river by barges, or was it a rickety footbridge?
That's strange now. I cannot recall exactly how we got over. I remember going over it.
Yes.
But how, I wouldn't be sure.
Yes.
No.
And that was on the Mae Klong River.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you went over to Tarsau. Yeah. Do you remember Tarsau?
The first camp.
Yeah.
It was a strange camp. Because most of it had money at that time, and you could buy 3 fish, dried fish on a little plastic platter and so forth, and the officers were all had to buy this. And the little bloke we had with us, Mel Docking from Albany, he was a real fine looking young chap, but he looked so bloody innocent. He'd be in anything but a bath. But he took quite a money off the officers to get buy these fish. And the funny thing, he got it all right. He got 2 of the boys to start a kerfuffle, a box up and so forth. And of course, all the locals are watching, and and he dived in, grabbed what he wanted, and got back out of sight again.
Yes.
He supplied a lot of stuff to the officers and gained a lot of money. It was a great little black mill.
Yes.
But we had, and another thing, of course, you could buy eggs, hard-boiled eggs. And you can imagine the next night you're marching in the dark, trying to keep close and bloke in front of you and so forth. And bloke's been eating hard-boiled eggs for a while, and they pass wind. You didn't know whether to follow them or let them go.
Yes.
But it was quite strange.
Yeah. Now you just mentioned you were marching at night. Now, why were you marching at night?
From what they tell us, they can be too hot to march in daytime.
Yes. Well, at that time of the year, it was over 40 degrees
Yes,
Fahrenheit.
very hot. It wasn't so much the heat; it was the humidity.
Yes.
The sweat just dripped off you all the time, and of course, trying to sleep at daytime was bloody hard.
Yes. Yeah.
But that made it. But
and I suppose when you stopped in these stopping
early
points, someone still had to do some of the fatigues.
All the cooking and everything had to be done. And of course, the early piece we were marching up through Donforce camps, and they were out at work, and we went to their camps, and they tried wherever they could to talk between different groups. They tried to stop us from mixing and talking.
Yes.
Everywhere we went was the same thing. You're not allowed to go near them.
Yeah.
Because somebody could belt you with a stick straight away.
Yeah.
But another thing, marching at night time, there were fireflies there. And if you can catch a firefly and squash him on the back of the bloke in front of you, it was bloody lovely. You could walk along straight, no trouble at all. Watch where you're putting your feet, because you had something to see. Otherwise, you're trying to see the bloke in front of you.
Yes.
But there was a lot of fireflies were killed through the blokes using as markers.
Yes. Yeah. Did you see the doctors in F Force? Did you see them moving around during the march?
Not much, I believe. I've heard a lot of it since the doctors were keeping up. Bruce Hunt was keeping up with the chaps at the back end of the field. Doing a wonderful job, but actually we kept going in your position. While you could, you kept into your position.
Yes, yeah. So I think how many days did you say that you?
17 nights.
17 nights, and then you got
there was one night we missed a break.
They gave you a rest for a night.
Rest period, yeah.
How magnanimous of them.
Oh yes. They didn't give us much away, but it was a night.
Yeah. So, but at the end of 17 days, were you up at, say, Nicky, or where were you at that stage?
We were stopped at Nicky, and then straight away they said a group of us to go on to Lower Songkurai.
Yes. Now that was the camp that you spent a lot of time in.
Yeah, spent time there.
Who were the doctors who were in that camp with you?
Bruce Hunt, and two.
Frank and...
No, two.
Lloyd.
Same name.
Carl.
Carl's. Yeah.
Frank
Frank
and
Lloyd Carl. They were not related, but they were the same name.
Yes, yeah. And what about John Taylor? Did you...
No, I never had heard of him, but I never had much to do with him.
Yes.
Usually every time, because we had Jack Gorringe with us.
Yes.
And Jack had been a platoon sergeant, but he worked with Bruce Hunt right through the piece.
Yes.
I think he worked about 25 hours a day.
Yeah.
Anything at all going. And he went to one morning, because it sounds silly now, but at that time, chaps with malaria, a dose of malaria, went to work every day with a dose of malaria. Sounds so bloody silly now, but you had to, otherwise chaps with great big tropical ulcers, they open wounds on the legs and had no dressing for them. And you went to work, you didn't go to work, you were counted out by, there was two different groups. You had the bloody guards, the Koreans and Japs, and then you had the Jap engineers. They hand over so many men and expect that same number back at night. And it was a weird setup. But one morning I was really bad with a dose of malaria, and Jack Gorringe said, "You better stop in and see the doc, see the major." So he had a little homemade stool he was sitting on, and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I was, "I've got malaria." Well, he sat back on his stool, and he could teach a bully how to swear. He's going on and on about this bloody people reckon they've got malaria. And he said, "You might be sick, you might have a fever. I'm the so-and-so doctor, I'll say if you've got malaria."
Who said that?
Bruce Hunt.
Oh, Bruce Hunt, yeah.
But that was his style.
Yeah.
We found out later it was a matter of making you want to fight.
Yeah.
His idea all of the these were sort of giving it up. A lot of the British troops did open up to the Australians. He had you straight away. You've got to bloody fight. And argued the point that pushed people as much as they could to keep them going.
Yes.
And that's the thing that brought a lot of people home.
Now you're this is in Shimo Songkurai, that's the southern one. There was an area there known as Cholera Hill, which George Aspinall took a picture of.
Yeah.
Do you remember that particular location?
There's a photo in my office.
Mm-hmm.
I took that photo. I was asked, well, the manager high school asked for a group of people from each of the wars, Korea and all, to go there and talk to them. And I had 3 young chaps. They'd been clued up what to do, firing me questions, and they were very, very smart on it, picking all the different points and so forth. But they took that photo. It's in my office. You can have a look at it later. They put a little story onto it. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
So it's great to get young people involved in what went on.
Now there were the 3 Songkurai camps. There was
lower,
the lower one, then there was the main one which had the big bridge on, the bridge so-called of 1,000 lives, and then there was Kami Songkurai, where you went to later. I always get the 2 of them mixed up, so I always call it lower Songkurai and upper Songkurai. Much easier.
Easier to sort out.
So what work were you doing when you were in these camps?
First up, when we went to the lower camp, first thing we did was a whole batch of us went back, corduroyed the roads for the trucks to get through. Because at that time, had asked Bush how the trucks were getting there. But it turned out they came by a roundabout way. We came as much as they could, up and down over hills, didn't matter where, as much as a straight line to get to the point we were heading. But they went a roundabout way, and from Nicky up, they were having a hell of a trouble going through all the hollows because of the rain. And we had to cut poles 8 foot long and lay them crossways the track to make a track for them to run across. We spent a lot of time on that.
Yeah, to give it a base.
Yeah, a base for the trucks to come through.
Yeah.
And then we started building out on the track.
Now, were the trucks driven by Japs or by prisoners? Were the trucks driven by Japs or by prisoners?
Pommy trucks, those Marm and Harrington. And they were driven by the Japs.
Were they? Yeah.
That time. There might have been some drug. Funny thing, when we were at Ban Pong, another chap from the railways like me had been a fireman, and they put out a tale of put in your occupation, because 90% of the Australians were labourers.
Yes.
Save yourself putting in, but he put him in. He was an engine driver, which he wasn't. He was a fireman, and they grabbed him straight away, and he spent the rest of the war driving trains right through, back up into Laos, all the way up around all over the place. As an engine driver, working with 2 native firemen, or wood-fired, and he had barracks, looked after like a lord. She had home after it too.
Yes, yeah.
It's just strange, putting his name in. Strange things turned up.
Do you remember any guys having legs amputated in Shimo Songkurai and Kami Songkurai? Do you remember any of them by name?
Jerry O'Leary lost a leg there.
Do you know who amputated it?
No.
No. Because Captain Frank Carl was the only surgeon you had in that camp.
Would have been him, I suppose.
And there were some Pommy surgeons up at Songkurai itself.
No, wouldn't be sure.
Yeah. And now, did you work on embankments as well?
Embankments, started off on the embankments and so forth.
What's involved with doing an embankment?
Carting dirt or carting rocks, anything else to form. A lot of those formations you see now are still there, where they started out wide, putting rocks in and filled it with dirt. Otherwise you had to use the rocks, otherwise the heavy rainfall just washed it out. You built rock embankments up, built to the heights. And a strange thing now, I went back up there in 08 and up to Hintop Camp, and those embankments are still there, solid as you like.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing the way there's no doubt the Jap engineering were very, very good, the things they did.
Yeah.
But the way they did it was the problem.
Yes, how they employed their labour. Yeah. But, so what were the circumstances that when you moved from Lower Songkurai to Upper Songkurai, was that after they'd taken the 2,000 sick up to Burma, up to Tambay? No, before that.
A long while
Yeah.
before, yeah. No, we were working there. Then I was working for quite a while on hammer and tap.
Yes.
Teams of two. You were given an 8-pound hammer and a 4-foot bar with a chisel end, and the Japs used to take it off you and work on them at night time and put a chisel end on. If they were tempered well, it was quite good to work. But if it wasn't, in a matter of few strokes, and the end of it is blunted off, and you were given a team of 6 you in pairs, working on the face of the rock, and you all had to get a hole into a certain depth. He carried a stick with him all the time, the marker rock, poke it in, it's not far enough to keep going, to get the right depth in. And of course the bloke had a bad bar with a chisel in, with no chisel on the end of it. They stabbed behind him with a stick. And if you look like easing up, you belted with a stick to get into his. Once you got your hole to a certain depth, you got out of the way. They came in, set it all up, and charged and fired the face of the thing out. And you went to another place to start on another face. And the other blokes, Jacks, came in with little hammers. They sat down, cracking this up for blue metal.
Breaking up for ballast.
For ballast on the line. And of course they were in problems straight away because they got no shorts on by this time wearing G-strings. They might have had a pair of ragged shorts, and the stones are hitting their legs and chipping the skin, and there's the cause of a big lot of the amputations.
Could start an ulcer.
Started an ulcer straight away.
Yeah. So when you just go back to what you said about this hammer and tap, you're actually forcing a hole into the rock, and then they put an explosive in it, and then they
filled it with sand
and blow it up. And then
they had to go in a certain depth. I can't remember what the depth was now, but it had to go in, and they all had to be at the same depth to reach that depth. That's why it was hard. You were in trouble if you had a bad bar.
Yes.
But one bloke held it, and of course, at that time the blokes were mighty thin.
Yes.
I was working. That's why I came to work with the same chap that said about, I can't think of his name, that hit the bloke and lost my stretcher. He and I worked together. He was a expected fast bowler for New South Wales, hoped to play for New South Wales. A hell of a good bloke, Bonza bloke. He was a bit over 6 foot, because I wasn't much of me, but we worked together quite well. Discussed our lives, our pasts and everything else while you're working, and it was great to work with a bloke like that, keep him going and so forth. And he came in one day and he said in the afternoon he wasn't feeling very bright. That night we were in the long huts. We had thatch roofs and little fires ever so far along the huts, just so you could see your way to get along. And someone said, your mate's pretty crook. So I go down to see how he was, and I hardly recognised him. He had cholera, and his eyes just soaked back into his head, and it's just because it takes all the fluid out of your body. You pass grey slime either both ways, and I went back to the bloke. And next morning, of course, he's not there, he's dead.
Now, what unit was he from? You did say he was a New South Welshman.
I think he was 2nd 30th. I got his service number and name, the whole up there.
Oh, we'll catch up with that later. Now, why were you shifted from Shimo Songkurai to, Lower Songkurai to Upper Songkurai?
Because the British troops were, because the main thing, once we got up there, our doctors took charge. The doctors took charge of the camp and dictated what was to happen. But England, the officers remained in charge and told the doctors what to do, which was the wrong way around, back to front. And of course, they were told, Bruce Hunt said to us straight away, you're working alongside the river, the fast flowing river and so forth. The funny thing at that, the Japs every now and get to, and they'd throw a charge into the river to kill fish. And then we'd go further down the river, where the bend in the river, and all the fish would come to the outside. We got more fish than Japs did.
Yes.
And so forth. But no, you paddle along, and the Japs, Bruce Hunt said to us, you only time you go near the river is if they tell you to go, and if you do, you don't put your hand or anything near your mouth, all along the line. And we stuck to that, but the British, quite a lot of them are going down the river to have a wash, and there's cholera and infected water.
Now, I think you were present when he had Toyama standing beside him and an incident occurred. Can you tell us about that?
Well, because Bruce Hunt, as I said, he could swear like a trooper, swear like anything you like, but he got to, and this morning it's just breaking day, and Toyama, every time there was a Barney on, he always stood up for his height of about 5'5", and stated he was a Japanese gentleman. He always on about this, he was a Japanese gentleman. So this morning we were on parade, and he wanted a hell of a lot more workers than we had chance getting out. And Major Hunt said, this Japanese gentleman alongside me was born out of wedlock, and he wants so many men to work parties, because Toyama heard the Japanese gentleman, and he's standing here at attention with his fingers outstretched up, bowing up and down, and all the boys got great big grins on their face, and he couldn't work out what they were agreeing about.
Yeah, because he was
it made
born out of wedlock.
Oh yeah, yeah. It made work so easy to have a day like that. Every now and then we laughed, and somebody, you were born out of wedlock, it went on. No.
Did you know that Hunt had his hand broken earlier when on the march up?
Yes, yeah. Yes, he smashed his hand.
Yeah.
No, but then when we were at Lower Songkurai, he walked on his own, because we were not allowed to leave the camp, not allowed to do anything. He marched on his own back to Nicky's, went down there with 2 empty packs, and he went to the storeman and gave him a list of stuff he wanted. And they gave him quite a bit of medical supplies. So he fronted up to Lieutenant Bano, the Jap commander, and stated all the stuff he wanted, all this. And he marked a lot of stuff he'd given to him. He came back to camp, and he's got this 2 packs full of medical supplies, which the Japs were holding, they hadn't issued to anyone. And he came back. He was a wonderful man, the fact that he could get away. He got away with a lot of the Japs because I think they respected him in the fact that he wasn't afraid of them or anything else. He just stood up, he said something, believed in something, he said it, and that was it, whether you like it or not.
Well, you've just mentioned Colonel Bano, the Japanese commander of Air Force, but he was on the guard side, not on the engineers side. What can you tell us about him?
From what I can make out, he didn't do too much. Others came through and dictated things to him and so forth. I don't think he had much in the middle at all.
I had heard that he was he was about 60 years of age.
Yeah.
He was a First World War veteran, and he wore imperial ribbons.
Yeah, he had ribbons, yeah.
And I think at the end of the war, he was taken before the War Crimes Tribunal, and he was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment, and that Bruce Hunt was most hostile at him being treated that way because he said he wasn't that bad.
No,
is that your recall?
Bruce could go to him and talk to him, whereas most of them, you couldn't go, you couldn't discuss a thing with him. He could, he'd go and talk to him. But I know he went back a couple of times, he walked back to Nicky on his own. If any of us had tried, we'd been shot on the spot straight away. With the fact that the Nips did not know how to handle Bruce Hunt. He had that attitude about him, he's a big man, he stood up straight, he stared them in the bloody eye, and they had a certain amount of respect to just let him do what he wanted to do. I know, through him and Jack Gorringe, a lot of us came home.
Now when there were some other medical orderlies who performed with distinction up there. First of all, I'll talk about George Gwynn. He worked in the hospital as what they call a ward master.
That's in Burma.
Yes, that's right.
When we were in the camps at Lower Nicky, there was a little Pommy Padre, Duckworth.
Yes, Noel Duckworth.
Little round belly bloke, but he used to be out there when we come in, quite often come in from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night at work parties. He'd be wandering around. He said, how did so-and-so behave? He named different guards of engineers. How did they behave today? He seemed to know every bugger was out there. It turned out one night he was out there early in the piece, and Blake said, what are you doing out here? He said, they're having a dinner in there. The officers were having dinner, and he was crooked on it straight away, because if they were having dinner, they were getting more rations than men were getting. The men were doing the work. But no, he was a mighty little bloke. He just seemed to have that attitude, come up and talk to you, and lifted the hopes of a hell of a lot of blokes. before that, I got mixed up when we were in Cellaring. I got mixed up with the Padre
George Pallane, wasn't it?
Pallane. He was World War I man, and he was quite a character. He just spoke as it was, but he got to it. He started discussion groups. He'd get different people like George Gwynn to come and give a talk. George had been around the world virtually on different times and so forth. Give us a talk and so forth and on. And he had quite interesting, different people he could find to come and give a talk and so forth. Then one day he said, Sunday night I'm giving a sermon, preaching a sermon on the FUJ Club. Of course, the boys broke up straight away. You, Jack, business. So they lined up, they mobbed them. A lot of blokes had never been to church in their life, I think. They come to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And he got to, and he started off through the position we were in, what was likely to happen, and kept going. He said, the main thing, you're a group, you've got to stop together, work with one another, work in, and I believe, still believe, his words in that lecture from the FUJ Club stopped with a lot of those blokes for the rest of the prisoners in war days.
Yes.
He said, you've got to work together.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're, if it's a group, something happens, one's in trouble, look after him, look after each other.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. But he was quite a character, a bloke. You wouldn't expect him to be a minister of religion, but he'd talk away about anything going. And,
yes.
Oh no, wonderful man.
Yeah.
They were two people I had greatest respect of all the people I went away with.
Yes.
I think of Padres.
Yeah. Now, we've mentioned that you're in Lower and Upper Songkurai. When you moved from Lower Songkurai to Upper Songkurai, do you remember going through the British camp at Songkurai itself?
No, as I say, whenever they could, they kept you from joining.
Yes.
Mixing in with
okay.
But
you must have crossed that river there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we worked on that bloody river, putting that bridge in.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Those who could swim were out there swimming, trying to direct logs, because the river was flowing fairly fast.
Yes.
And you've got a big pile hanging down from the crane, and they're trying to get us to move upriver to the position where they want to go down.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they got two pile drivers, blokes on ropes, both sides. They're pulling the up, great big thing up the weight and drop to drive the piles in. I don't know. I was never much of a swimmer, so I ended up pulling ropes.
Yeah. So we're getting now to, say, towards the end of, well, the railway was joined on
16th of October.
Of 1943. So you must have been, it's probably in Upper Songkurai, when the A-Force guys started coming through laying the rails.
They came through at night time.
Yeah, did you ever have any contact with any of your own guys?
Tried to stop us as much as they could.
Yeah.
But they came through at night time. First we heard with the noise.
Yeah.
They were coming down and so forth.
Yeah.
But they could too, and they'd run sleepers out.
Yeah.
Run the rail out in front of it, couple it up, couple of pegs in, and run out, push the trucks out for the next lot. It's wonderful the way they laid it down. It was, I've often thought of it because I know when they put the bloody line down the Avon Valley and so forth.
Yes.
I mean, these blokes could have taught them a lesson or two how to rail low. They were wonderful the way they did it.
Yeah, and they were all prisoners of war doing that work under supervision of the Japanese engineers. Yeah.
Another funny one we struck was just about the time of the Speedo period, where the Speedo period went from about August through to the line was built. And one day there was a group of 10 of us were given a job with a little chap, and Matsidor, this little Jap bloke, he was a funny little bloke. His clothes, all his clothes were about 3 sizes too big. Yeah. And he wore a great big pith helmet. Great big, he looked like a mushroom, bloody mushroom. And he got to him. They gave him a list of logs to be various lengths and diameter to be cut, where we could to put them into heaps, to put them into the track where we could, otherwise put them in heaps. They were a track through for the elephants to pull them out, and so forth. And he woke up straight off that we could do the work on these lists in about 3 hours. So we sat down, we had some wonderful discussions, and you get to, and he wanted to know all about Australia. We would know Jap customs and everything. And talked there for hours. And he had been going to some school, special school. He'd been studying and so forth. And he had words of English he'd picked up through reading books. But other than that, we spoke in a mixture of Dutch, Indian, Malay, the whole all mixed together, words and really sort out what we wanted. But he, as he said, we stopped out of work always when the last parties come in of a night time, come in, and that I had about 10 or 12 days of that. I'm quite sure that was one thing that helped me to get through to come home, because the boys that time were getting hammered pretty hard. We were going out there, it was virtually a holiday. With this little bloke, he was Matsidor. He was a funny little man.
So when the line passed through Songkurai, did the pressure go off? Did your workload go off?
No, not
Well,
much.
what were they keeping you to do at that stage?
Oh, we had to ballast and so forth, but packing sleepers and ballasting, but it did ease off a lot. The hours, when we were out there, they were driving us hard, but they weren't working the bloody 10 and 11 at night.
Now, Songkurai was an unusual place because it was a very narrow valley at that point, wasn't there?
Up through.
Yeah. And there was a British camp above you called Changaraya.
This is a funny one, I've never struck up. I walked, as I said, I walked twice through to 105 kilo camp. We never saw that camp.
Yes, yeah.
Whether the fact that they had a truck to dodge us round it.
Yes.
But,
when you walked through to 105 kilo camp, which it was 13 miles, no, 13 kilometres. Did you walk along what became the railway trace, do you think?
No.
No?
No, what had been a truck
oh, yes.
Truck were coming you through,
Yeah.
and they used big bamboos and laid them into the mud
Yes.
and so forth to try and help the trucks get through, and got that stage where they just couldn't get through.
Yes.
And then they made us go through a party of about 20, pack back in front and walk through to 105 kilo camp. Give you a feed of rice there.
Yes.
And the same thing, they were trying to keep us from getting mixed up with the people in the camp.
Yes.
So then they pack your rice packs full of dry rice and walk back, and it was bloody hard. That was one thing that always frightened me, bloody splinters from the bamboo and on my feet or legs. But no, it was on for about a fortnight or so, and I did 2 trips.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd pick out the fittest.
And was that from Shimo Songkurai or from Kami Songkurai that you walked through? Which camp did you walk through from?
Upper camp.
Upper camp. Now, in upper camp, did you come across a doctor by the name of, an Australian doctor by the name of Colin Jutner?
No, I heard of him, but no, I can't say I ever saw him.
But, and also, wasn't Colonel Cappy in that in that camp?
He should have been sent back with the bloody Japs.
Yes. Yeah.
No, he was a dead loss.
But also, wasn't the senior officer in Upper Songkurai Red Schwartz, who later became a member of Parliament? Does that ring a bell to you?
We had bloody Porky Branson become a senator. What's the name from Bunbury?
McKinnon or
Speed McKinnon.
No. Is that the right name?
Yeah, Speed McKinnon. Graham McKinnon.
Yeah.
He was known as Speed.
Yeah, Red Schwartz later was the Minister for Repatriation. Was Captain Schwartz, and he
was 8 Div 6. Yeah, no, good bloke.
Yeah, and he was.
We had two officers from the 8 Div 6. I got on well with.
Yes.
Schwartz and Ben Barnett.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have seen Barnett while you were on the line, but you saw him in Singapore.
Singapore afterwards. Yeah,
because he was with a group that were operating separately from your group. Yeah.
No, we were with Ben Barnett when we were working in the ordnance depot just off Keppel Harbour when the British came over and bombed the place.
Yes.
Because Keppel Harbour was a zigzag set up. And they came in planes flying from different angles, and they blew the harbour to pieces, and yet just off the harbour there's 3-storied residentials and hardly touched them.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful piece of bombing. We were in there was English British plane parts in the ordnance depot there, still in the wooden crates.
Yeah.
And it was when
let's get back into Thailand, up in Upper Thailand. We'll get back to Singapore later.
Yeah.
So you're in northern Thailand. The railway has been completed, as you say, on the 16th of October 1943. Approximately when did you move south down to, say, Kanchanaburi or Tamakan, and how did you go down?
It was quite a discussion. Some of them were taken down by truck, and there was a group of us who were put there, and then we marched down to Niki.
Yes.
Marched to Niki, and they put us in railway trucks.
Yes.
Open four wagons and so forth, two groups of two wagons, pulled by an army truck, because their trucks were made to
that had the rail wheels on it,
meter gauge and so forth, and it was quite a mix-up. You'd go so far, and something had happened. They'd tip the trucks over, out of the way. There was a train coming through.
Yes.
Let the truck go off. So it was a long trip coming down.
Yes.
And even there, we came through a lot of the places. I can't have no recollection of being back since from seeing. But then we finished up. We got back down to Kamburi, and the whole group was still with Jack Gorringe, and the group of us there. Most of the blokes from 8 Div, 9% 8 Division, 9% B Company.
Yes.
And we were camped in the rubber, or in the jungle it was, just off the edge of the camp, and it was a job getting rations, getting food and so forth. But at one stage they go by, and he had a very bad dose of malaria, and I got the stage I was wandering, and they had a guard on me to keep me in a level, and I went backwards from there on, and then decided to send us to rail. They finally took us down, put us on a train, and brought us back to Singapore. But I have very little recollection.
Can we just dwell on Kanchanaburi, or Canberra as you describe it? Now Claude Anderson, your battalion doctor, was only 6 kilometres away up at Tamakan, which was the camp beside the bridge. You never saw him at any time? No. On that trip down in this on this two carriages being pulled by this motorised truck. Do you remember the Wampo Viaduct? Do you remember going over
that's
there?
No, I've been back since. And it'd be wonderful if I could say I'd seen the Wampo Viaduct, but no, I didn't.
Yeah, well, that's just as well you didn't.
We travelled all sorts of hours. Any old hours they'd put us on the track and go for a while. Then for some reason I'd get off the line, get out of the way.
Yeah.
And it was a bloody mix-up.
Yes, yeah. Right. So you just intimated that you moved then back to Singapore. Well, from Kanchanaburi, did you go by train down to the Singapore-Bangkok railway line, or?
No, we went down to...
did you go back to Bampong?
No, I think we went back through Bampong.
Yes. Yeah, that would be logical, yes.
Yeah, and of course...
Or it might have even Pladuk, which was the next
station. That's where the line started from.
Yes,
no, I think we went back to Bampong.
Yes.
It could have been non-Pladuk, I wouldn't be sure of that, but then we went the same position, reverse going back down the line.
And did you know you were going back to Singapore?
Oh, that's what I told you.
It must have been a bit of a relief.
Oh, yeah. Well, we thought we were free in Singapore.
Yeah.
Except at that stage then I wasn't with it too much at all. I was in a bad way.
So when you got back to Singapore, and you got off the train, where were you taken to, and how were you taken?
Taken by the motor truck back out to near Selrang Barracks.
Yes.
And dumped off there. But of course, as I say, I was in a bad way at that stage, and once they dropped us off there, of course, all movement on Singapore Island, the POWs, was done by truck bodies. They left a steering wheel and a handbrake on them, and the rest was a big tray top. Everything was carted around by these trucks. All rations, everything moved on trucks. And something I missed too is early on in the piece, when we were on, it was after we came back, so we weren't there, but when they loaded all the gear up, myself and another bloke with the same condition. I was chucked up on top of the gear. And, that's the cars around. I remember I saw an officer, 2nd, 4th badges and all, and I tried to draw his attention. He came over, took one look at me and took off. It was Captain Ben, a black captain with a hyphenated name. Doesn't matter. But anyway, no. Then I finished up when they held us on parade over the road from Sallarine Barracks, the parade ground. There was a newly built hut with no decking and just the floor ground. And this other bloke and myself were taken and laid on the ground on the floor hut. And they Japs started counting. Well, Japs counting doesn't go together. 2 5 don't always make 10, sort of thing. And there's different blokes counting. They kept counting, all getting different numbers, and finally they decided after a few hours how many they had. But Jack Gorringe said to the guard, "There's 2 more." He came in, and this guard, not viciously at all, he came in, looked at me and gave me a kick in the ribs just to find out if I was alive or dead. And it always sticks in my mind. I still feel it. Little bastard. Then once they said, "Righto, the numbers are right," straight away the bloody people from Roberts Barracks were there with a stretcher, onto a stretcher, back into hospital. In a matter of a couple of weeks, I was back in with a mob again. Of course, Roberts Barracks was kept as a hospital right throughout the whole of 3.5 years.
So there were quite a lot of doctors still in there, and none of the Air Force doctors. They told the Air Force doctors to go and have a rest, and they would look after you.
I said, they'd been saving the local mob in Changi area. Had been saving up rations right through to put on something special for Christmas. And all went straight out to Air Force.
It went out to Air Force. Now, when you're out at Roberts Hospital, either there or later, did you ever come across a Perth doctor by the name of Adrian Farmer? Major Adrian Farmer?
No, I can't say.
No.
I went there a couple of times there with different complaints. One stage, when the boys, this early in the piece, when they called Happy Feet, Pedalgia, they called it all sorts of different names and so forth. Had a chap I knew quite well, a South Australian, had been a masseur for doctors and so forth. And he said, so, was he allowed to work on these blokes? Any of it at all. And he get to, and blokes laying there in tears, the feet giving them hell. And he get to starting from up to the thighs, gradually go down the legs, massage down, and take the other leg. Next thing, blokes asleep. And finish it. And it was wonderful relief, some of the blokes. And I watched him and so forth. I'll have a go at this too. But the stuff they were using to do it with affected his hands. Of course, his skin came off his hands. I had the same thing. I felt really good when you see a bloke hurt you in tears. Suddenly get to it. Oh, sigh of relief, and lay back and go to sleep. But the hands couldn't keep up.
Keep it up. I just need to take you back to when you're up in Thailand. There was another Australian doctor by the name of Major Stevens. Did you ever come across him? He was.
I heard of him.
He was in Kami Songkurai, and he wasn't well. Now we just had a little break there. You're back in Singapore. Did you? I know many POWs worked out on the airstrip. Did you work out there?
It was a funny thing at Kallang. We had to extend Kallang Airport, and you go out there, the truck, and always had us beat until we had one driver and one guard. We'd have about 3 guards. Couldn't work us out. We get to it, we were extending it and so forth. But it turned out they had a brothel there, and the guards weren't into us at all. They were all off missing, and we could see them at times, got close enough to it, see these women all done there, all their fancy bloody gear, their great big bows in the back of their gear and so forth. But it was a funny thing, they had these bloody guards coming through. But if going out there on the trucks, we were going past the area where the Gurkhas were working, as prisoners, they were working, and we'd be working away doing something. All of a sudden a voice would pipe up, "Hey Dig, what's the news?" And they'd go to shift your head. if you knew anything at all, tell them anything you could and get out of their way.
Yeah.
We never saw them.
No.
They were wonderful. They just turn up out of the blue. There's rubbish around the place, drums and different things, and they sneak in amongst it all and come up and find out. And then we'd go past in the truck and they'd all stand up and salute.
Yeah.
And they nips into it with a stick. Oh.
Yeah. Now you're back in Singapore. Did you have concert parties? Were you able to have concert parties back there?
Early in the piece. Oh yes. Well, I had to have concert.
Only early before you went up to the line, or when you came back?
I don't think I can't recall them after, but early in the piece, because we had some wonderful artists, Ray Tulloch, Slim de Grey, and those people.
Yeah.
A bloke, I can never think of his name. He was very, very clever. He was, put up all sorts of capes. He went to England and married an English girl, and he came back out here and he put on a show in Perth for quite a few years after the war. Of people in the hall, and she'd come, his wife would come through and ask, give her some object and close her hand on, and he was in a plane above, and he'd tell her what he had. He was a wonderful bloke. But Ray Tulloch and Slim de Grey, they were quite a lot of TV shows.
Yes,
Bob Murray and I, just after we came back up top, when Bob came back from Burma, I came back from Thailand, we got together, and for a while we were put in the European section of Cheggy Jail with the bloody 8-div concert party.
Oh yes.
Well, only two of us.
Yeah.
Why we were put there, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were wonderful blokes amongst them.
Yeah.
One of them had a set of rings, about I suppose 8-inch diameter, hold up these rings. He'd put them in his arm and shake them, give them one at a time. He'd put them in his arm and shake them all off. They're all in a chain.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He said, you can play with them, but don't try to bend them.
Yeah.
But they were wonderful. But then they'd put on a concert party, and the front rows were Jap officers.
Yeah.
They took the seat.
Yes.
They had a little bloke there, a female impersonator. Not Arnell. Can't think of his name now. But we put a Shirley in front of it.
Yeah.
But he took the part very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want sweet and sour?
Please.
Yep.
Yes. Oh no.
Now, when did you know the war was over?
We were on what was known as P Party, party of 200 for a long while. Been going to Perth by truck, doing jobs all around the bloody place, and they unload you on Changi Road, line up in front of the guardhouse and open rank of fives, and they'd search you, and march down the side. We were in the work party camp down the side of the jail, and Speed McKinnon's round the corner there, jumping up and down, waving his arm. The war's over. We told him where to go. And we'll find out tonight where the work party lists come out. Because later on in the night, then details come through about this bomb they'd dropped and so forth. And we found out, I believe it was right, but we had work party for another 5 days. We went on P Party, but of course the civilian population knew. Well, it seemed that only people didn't know were the bloody common lower grade Japs. The officers knew, but they didn't. But then they started treating us a lot better, and then the 2 days Yasmi, 2 days holiday, and that was it.
And how did you get home?
Two days Yasmi. Bob Murray and I had on P Party been put a whole lot of Jap parachutes about 2 mile around from Selring area, and we're straight out there straight away. And get these, they're all made in strips of different colours, cut out as big as squares of material as you could. We flogged these to bloody local population, chooks.
Yeah.
And they'd finish up the 2 9 platoon blokes, put a sign over the top of our hut in charcoal, Holding and Murray, dealers in poultry.
Yes.
We had chooks tied up by their legs underneath. Some of the boys had been into town, and there was still Australian butter in 5 pound, 56 pound packs, wooden bamboo, in 3-ply packs. They do it up beforehand. Been there for 3.5 years. They came home with a cart and the butter.
And they were out in the warehouses or the iceworks, more likely the iceworks.
Storage.
Yeah, cold storage.
So we couldn't scold the chicks to pluck them, skin them, fry them in butter. And that, I still believe all our stomach troubles we at home were not from our probationers. It's the fact that our stomachs got into so little, then we've packed everything else into it. The Red Cross ladies would come through, and they give you a packet of cigarettes and a great big bar of chocolate.
Yeah.
See some poor silly blood get to with a bar of chocolate, and he's quick and lively for 3 days, couldn't stop vomiting. No. It was Major Hunt told us earlier in the piece, or after we come back up top. He said, when you get out of here, they'll lock you up, give you 6 small meals a day for quite some time, till your stomachs get used to taking ordinary food.
Yes, yeah.
But none of it was a thought of.
So what ship, did you come home by ship or by plane?
I came home in the Strathmore.
The Strathmore.
We left Singapore, came to Darwin, and soon after we pulled up, they said, Private Holding wanted the game plank. So I said, Bob Murray, come with me. And there's 3 girls in uniform. Soon as they spoke, one girl woke up. The girl Wynne used to work with dressmaking before the war, so forth. She did. Wynne was in the army, she was in Townsville, so forth. And we had 36 hours there. They drove us around the town, gave us wonderful meals and so forth. The only thing, we were buggered. You couldn't talk. You couldn't talk without swearing. It was hard. You got to say something to lose all the bad language in with it and talk. Head of black for swearing and so forth. But it took a while. Then we went round to Brisbane and anchored in the river, because the river rises and falls. And there's 3 of us, with Les McCann, the little black, got lined up with a firing squad and shot. He's with us, the 3 of us, and we got up and tried to get down the gangplank. No way, only QX is off. So we went down below and found a fairly big porthole, and looking at it, as the boat came up, clear sky, and then down 3 parts were covered on the decking. We watched this for a while, one at a time. Just as it's coming up, we're out, got on the ground, got a taxi. Where do you want to go? I want to go to a shoe shop. Coming home, we issued our, we had socks and Indian boots, great big heavy boots. Well, it's like a cow with a foot in a jam tin. Every year's bloody thing. So I go to a shoe shop and told him what we wanted, paddled around for quite a while, got our shoes, each with our shoes, and the bloke's all right, so much money and so many coupons. Hey, what's this? Coupons caper. And he said, where are you buggers been? Told him. And he said, did you know so-and-so? Les McCann, cheeky little bastard, he said, he'll only want half coupons, he's only got 1 leg. And we didn't know whether the chap knew his son had lost his leg or not. Then down to Sydney, went out to Ingleburn camp, and someone, somehow or other, went to a private home, and someone arranged, Wynne rang me from Darwin. I spoke to her on the phone there. Went by train to Melbourne for 36 hours. Then caught the the Strathmore. Went over to Burnie and dumped the TXs up there. Funny thing, when we got there, the whole town, it was a small town, everyone was on the wharf. So the 3 of us go ashore, wander up, the shops are wide open, things we wanted, we picked out what we wanted for the shops and thought was the right amount of money left on the counter, went back. That whole shop, down to the beach, and as we left, the stacks and stacks, pyramid stacks of potatoes. As the Strathmore were pulling out, they threw spuds all over the bloody ship. We came back across the bight, and there was a big blow on, so we headed south, and they issued 3 extra blankets. And finished up, got into Fremantle Harbour. And I've still got the sign, the elder sister maid, I've got it in there folded up. Welcome home. So forth.
Now, how did you, what date did you take your discharge?
29th of November. And I was married 2 days later.
Oh, well, you just beat me to my next question. When did you reunite with Wynne?
I wouldn't, first up she couldn't get home.
From Darwin, was she?
Western Command told me to go, if you only had married, go over there and marry her. Like hell. So the brother was in Western Command, he was well up and so forth. He'd been POW in Germany. And he took me straight to this major, and I told him the story, right? She came home. But she got delayed on the way to Adelaide. She got ahead of her papers. The papers were behind, they wouldn't let her move till the papers caught up with her. But I think it was the 16th of October she got home. And your brother was a captain, and as you mentioned, he was a prisoner of the Germans. What was his name? Frederick William. Yeah.
Frederick William.
He got a DCM at Druid Ridge.
Yes, yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. And what battalion did you say? Was he a 2nd 11th Battalion?
No,
Was
2nd 28th.
Second.
He helped.
Second 28th. Yeah.
When I went to join up first in October 40, they grabbed me a photo. They're just forming, starting to form 2nd 28th, and he was in on help setting the whole thing up.
Yeah.
But when he finished up, well, of course, later on he did all sorts of jobs. He had 2 terms in New Guinea with the POW, instructor of the POW New Guinea with volunteer rifles. He met his wife up there. She was a nursing sister in Darwin, was Bond, and she went up to the islands and so forth. Then she went back to the islands working as a nurse.
Yeah.
And they met, came back home.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting bit of family history.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. What was the worst thing that you experienced, you either experienced personally or you saw, as a prisoner of war?
I watched Bob Murray got bloody hiding.
And where was that again?
At Lower Songkurai.
At Lower Songkurai.
What for? I don't know what he got picked on.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't Toyama that did it?
No, just a Jap on the Jap recurring guard belting with a bloody stick.
Yeah.
He was down on the ground and still belted and kicked him.
Yes. Yeah.
And got sick of it and just walked away and left him.
Yes. Yeah. And
you're there and you can't do a thing about it.
Yes. No, I do understand. Yeah. And what was the good experiences that you had from being in service, from being and as a consequence of that being a prisoner of war?
Well, 10 days I had with bloody Matsidor.
Yes.
It was a lifesaver.
So he was as far as you're concerned,
he was the only nip I would like to see again.
Yes.
I'd do anything for him.
Yeah.
He was quite a very bright little bloke.
Yes.
He worked things out. He was the only one that was showed any semblance of it.
Now, there's one, I'm sure I hadn't asked you about this as we were going through the interview, but whilst you were up on the working on the Burma Thailand Railway, do you remember seeing the coolies who were up there working?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right often.
And what's your impression of what they had to tolerate?
Well, because we had some organisation.
Yes.
Of command.
Yes.
They had nothing. That was the part. That's what beat them, the fact that they were just a mob of blokes who no one told them what to do by the guards, and the guards did what they liked with them.
Yes.
I mean, we had, of course, through all the time in Thailand, the NCOs took control. We were controlled by the NCOs through the pieces. Officers I seldom saw Captain Gwyn on Air Force. But he went with Major Hunt. Bob Murray went to when they went to Tamarkan.
They went up to 10 Bay first.
10 Bay.
Yes. Well, Wally, I can only say it's taken me a long time to get down here and get this interview with you, but I'm terribly, terribly grateful to you for the opportunity.
In a second here I'll show you. Just turn it off and come.